What's happening? Welcome to Wong Notes podcast. I'm your host, Cory Wong. Today on the show, we got a very special guest, Dave Navarro. I've been a huge fan of Navarro for years. When I was a little kid, I had a guitar tab book of One Hot Minute. I learned the album top to bottom, every guitar part. So I've studied Navarro's playing intensely. I've learned a bunch of the Jane's Addiction music from when I was a little kid, and also some of the other songs that he's played on just for other artists. So I'm a huge fan. It was an absolute honor to interview Dave for this interview, and cool guy. Just a totally cool guy. Just an artist too. Man, this cat's got some concept, dude. Now, I know some people are here and they're probably thinking, ooh, Wong's interviewing Navarro. We're going to get some tea. We're going to get some action on whatever's going on. Now, I have a couple options here. I can, number one, just not tell you when this interview was done and let you wait and listen to the interview a long time and blah, blah, blah. Ooh, is he going to talk about what happened? Like there was a whole thing that happened. I'm going to let you know right now, this interview was done before the Jane's Addiction tour started. Okay? I did this interview a couple months back, and that doesn't mean, oh, don't listen if you're not listening for tea. What I'm saying is it's a very interesting thing to get the perspective of him going into this tour and now finding out what just happened. You know, a lot of us have seen there's some stuff that happened. The tour's off. There was some quarrels that happened. I have no opinion on it because I don't know everything. I wasn't there. I'm not going to speak on that. I'll let you do your own research, whatever. But what I will say is it's very interesting to talk to Dave regardless of whatever happened with that tour. Dave's an incredible musician, artist, and I'm just such a huge fan. And honestly, yeah, given everything that's happened in the last few weeks, it is really interesting to get this perspective of his mindset going into the tour. And I was looking forward to seeing one of the shows, to be honest. I mean, we talk about it in the interviews, like, yeah, come out to the show, man, let's hang, blah, blah, blah. I wish I could. Bummed I didn't get a chance to see it, but here we are. You know, band dynamics. Things happen. A lot of history in that band. Doesn't make me any less of a fan, though, if I'm going to be honest. So, hey, enjoy the interview with Dave. Thanks for being here. Hey, you guys know about DistroKid yet? If you are an artist, musician, somebody who's trying to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, all of those things, DistroKid is a digital distributor that can get your music on all of those platforms. It's the easiest, fastest way to do so, with accounts even just starting at $19.99 a year per artist. So for me, I have several albums out. I just pay one amount for the year. For all the Cory Wong albums, I just pay one amount, and DistroKid takes 0% royalty. 100% of the royalties come straight to me. Or you use their Teams feature where you can dedicate a certain percentage to one member of your band, a certain percentage to the other, or one of your collaborators. I do this sort of thing. It works amazing. DistroKid is who I use for my albums, and it has worked great for me. The stuff gets up there fast. They have a smart ISRC thing. I don't have to worry about coming up with my own codes, registering a lot of the stuff. They just have that. And they also have these really cool design tools. If you are not very design savvy, they'll help you come up with assets for social media and other things to help promote your album. And if you want to use them, you can use my VIP code. Just go distrokid.com/VIP/Cory Wong and you get 30% off. How about that? Check them out, DistroKid. All right, let's hit this episode. Well, Dave, thanks so much for joining us today. It's an absolute treat to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I just can't wait for the day that I can have AI do this for me.
Do what? What part of it?
Podcasts.
When I was a kid, I had a Guitar World subscription, and I still have the November 1997 issue of Guitar World magazine with you on the cover, next to Flea, shirts off, Ibanez in the hand. It is. I'm up at the cabin right now, but back home in the studio, it is on the bookshelf still.
Oh, you're kidding. That's great. Thank you so much.
Incredibly inspired by your playing for so many years. And I have a bunch of questions regarding different groups that you played with, different things.
Sure.
We have a mutual friend in Chris Chaney. I texted him yesterday said, hey, what do I got to ask Dave about? So he says hi, and
he is the best. And I couldn't be happier for him. Like, you know, I've been playing with him for over 20 years in one form or another. In Jane's Addiction and Royal Machines and Camp Freddy, and we had a band with Taylor Hawkins, and now he's in the biggest band in the world.
Dude, I didn't even know he's in AC/DC now. He was like, "Yeah, dude, just played this gig for 130,000 people." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, it's insane. I know. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah,
he you know, the irony there is that. And not to slag AC/DC, but the irony is that Chris is one of the most professional, talented, like muso, Berkeley School of Music, like music theory, you know, Jaco Pastorius kind of player. And he's in AC/DC, which has got to be the easiest gig in the world for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the thing that makes him so great, is that he knows when and when not to use certain things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what's interesting, I mean, yeah, I also saw him, I was hanging with him in Mexico City. He was playing with Miley Cyrus at Corona Capital Festival or something when I was also playing. It's like, this dude can play in the pop realm. He can play rock. He can fit into all these different settings. Alanis Morissette. I've seen him with Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, if you check out his discography on Wikipedia, it'll blow your mind. It's like Celine Dion, and just like it's the craziest collection of people. So anyway, enough on Chris Chaney, but I'm happy. I'm happy to tell him hi back if you see him, or I'll call him after this.
Curious, because you also have a very unique perspective where you are a guitar player. You are very in on the muso thing. You understand guitar, how the role of the guitar works in different styles of music, but you also understand pop culture, and you understand the role of a rock star, a guitar player that serves a function as a thing where it doesn't need to be about the shredding, but it's about the energy that the guitar brings. I'm curious where that comes from, like how you developed that, and kind of what your mindset is on balancing pop culture, guitar cat versus really getting into it on the instrument.
Yeah, God, to be honest with you, my influences growing up, they changed consistently, So I first started getting into playing. It was all Hendrix all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's all Hendrix all the time. Then I got into Led Zeppelin. Then I got into the Doors and heard Robbie Krieger underplay stuff and play stuff in weird tunings, and, then getting a little pulled in that direction, and just kind of like adding to the song, but not featured in the song. And then I got into Iron Maiden, and I got into heavy metal, and I got into really like aggressive guitar shredding, ripping stuff. Of course, when I was maybe 11 years old, 10 or 11 years old, Van Halen 1 came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, I was already in the Hendrix. And once I heard Van Halen 1, that was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for a living.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that just blew everybody's mind away. And then at the same time, I was always buying bootlegs of my favorite bands. I was buying Black Sabbath bootlegs. I was buying Led Zeppelin bootlegs. I was buying Hendrix bootlegs. And I noticed on the bootlegs, most of them sounded terrible, but, for the most part, I would listen to them, and basically to hear the guitar player. And a lot of them, most of them, especially Hendrix and Page, like they weren't playing the solo that they played on the record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were just kind of like going off and freeforming. So when I was, like I said, 10, 11 years old, and I couldn't see these bands live yet, and I was buying the records and then buying the bootlegs, I was under the impression that when a solo guitar player plays live, He just kind of makes it up on the spot. It didn't occur to me that guys wrote solos or played them the way they were on the record or whatever, you know what I mean? Not so much later. So I think that having such a juxtaposition of influences, you know, you got Eddie Van Halen there, who's, you know, if I had a Mount Rushmore, it would be Hendrix, it would be Van Halen, it would be David Gilmour. Always have trouble with the fourth spot. Maybe Page, maybe Clapton. I don't. It's you know, the fourth spot's always the toughest.
The rotating fourth.
But yeah. And Eddie, and frankly, Eddie might need a monument on his own to make room for that for that fourth. You know what I mean? But you know, so I really delved into these guys' style and approach and playing, and kind of fused them all together as my own. Like, because I didn't want to sound like any of them, but I wanted to be able to do what they did. And, you know, the irony is that, you know, in the early days of Jane's Addiction, we'd be playing really avant-garde music, and then I'd go home and I'd be playing Mean Streets, you know? So, you know, just because that's, you know, it was fun. But I didn't want to copy anybody. And then I got a little older. I got more into the punk rock, goth, Bauhaus, Susie and the Banshees, you know, Love and Rockets kind of world, the approach of guitar playing, and, you know, chorus and acoustic guitars, and, you know, moody stuff that kind of laid a kind of a melancholy vibe, but wasn't really in your face. And I kind of connected that to my love of Pink Floyd, where David Gilmour does that. He's very vibe oriented, and he's very subdued until it's his solo, and then it's the most memorable, heart-wrenching, tear-jerking guitar solo there is. You know what I mean? So my Pink Floyd, my love of my Pink Floyd days kind of gave me the handoff into the goth days. And I think that what I'm stuck with now is I just kind of incorporate naturally all of those styles into my playing. I don't think that I'm a great shredder. I don't think that I'm a great muso guy. I don't think that, you know, I do ambient stuff necessarily, you know, that's my number one thing. But what I do think is I try to do all of those things. Yeah. You know, so, because I like, when I'm recording, I like to put, you know, 50 tracks of guitars down. Sure. You know what I mean? Because I just ideas. And, you know, by the end of the day, you won't hear the bass and drums. It's just like tracks of guitars. You know? And then I pull away what's not working or what's, you know, and then I get it to a place where it's like, oh, I like this thing. Let's leave it. Yeah. But what I mean by that is that I like there to be a colorful palette within the instrument that isn't one color. Totally. You know? So
yeah, that range of sounds is across your entire discography and all the bands you've played with and your solo record. That's very obvious. Even listening to the way that you're describing the acoustic, melancholy, but very melodic and pretty. I mean, immediately it's like, oh yeah, that tune, My Friends. Like the way that you play acoustic on that and the guitar solo on that. That's such a, I mean, as soon as you say that, I'm thinking, oh yeah, acoustic, melancholy, dark, but also it has something really pretty about it. And the solo comes and I can sing the solo back in my head.
Yeah. And I guess that's a great example of, I mean, My Friends has kind of more of a, I'd hate to say it, but has more of a country vibe than a goth vibe, but it still has more of what I would consider Daniel Ash and David Gilmour than any other two guitar players, you know? And yeah, I could see where you would say that. Yeah, I really love that solo. And like the solo for that came about, like that's the other thing is that I'm really improvisational. Like I don't go home and I write a solo and then come in and hit record and play it.
Yeah.
Like that solo was intended to be a part, you know, in the song when I was trying, you know, when I overdubbed too much, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this would be a cool part to like be under the vocal, like,
yeah.
And then the guy, my engineers, Dave Sardi at the time, said, "Dude, that's your solo right there."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Okay," you know. And I'm very open to suggestion, and you know, I'm just kind of open to seeing. Like, I feel like if I go into a session and I'm tracking and my mind's made up and I am immovable about a specific idea or part, then I'm just limiting myself.
Yeah.
You know? So one of the things with Jane's Addiction now that we're back in the original lineup, is that I really enjoy working with the other band members on guitar parts because sometimes somebody will hear something that I won't hear and I'll take it under advisement. You know, just like if you're not a sax player, you might hear the saxophone playing something that a sax player wouldn't play.
Totally.
So, you know, I keep my ears open if people say something or do something, you know, or suggest something, I'm like, well, that might be cool, or maybe we can expand on it here, or maybe we could do this there. But, yeah, I wouldn't, you know, so I think that kind of encapsulates my approach to playing, is that I'm not necessarily, you know, like there's no real virtuosity going on. There's you know, like some of these guys like Nuno, like some of those, you know, some of the guys out there that are just fucking unbelievable. And, you know, I wish I could play like that, but I just don't have the patience to sit and learn it.
But we all have our own thing, you know, you have a voice on the instrument, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's about having that voice, you know what I mean? And I don't want to have somebody else's voice.
Yeah.
I would like to be able to do it, but
sure,
you know, I probably wouldn't record it.
Yeah. Well, the way that you're talking about coming up with parts too, what I really like about your artistry and your artistic path is that I feel like you're one of those players that really does well in an ensemble and in a band. And I've always loved, I mean, you know, many of us, we grew up not being able, like, if you heard something in your head, you couldn't just put down some drums and bass in your computer and play along with it and do it all yourself. Like, we had to get in a room, listen to me, yes. I sound like an old man now, but, you know, you had to get in a room with your friends and play it. And a lot of times like you're saying, somebody will hear something different. There's a little bit of a more collaborative process, and a band environment is a really fun place to be, where I am kind of bummed for some. I mean, it's great the way the industry is now and people can make stuff at home and it's the low barrier to entry. But I do feel like a lot of people miss out on that sort of shared experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, not only is that the case for us in the room, but it's the case for us in a live setting where, you know, Steven is one of the most unpredictable drummers in the world. you don't know what tempo the song's going to be. You don't know if it's going to stay there, if it's going to slow down, if it's going to increase, if he's going to start doing some strange hi-hat change in the middle of a part that we've done a million times before just because he feels like it. And then when he does do that change, Eric and I kind of jump on it.
Sure.
And like kind of groove out on something. And that happens more times than not. It happened more on this last European tour. We're really getting it. The three of us are really getting into listening to one another kind of a vibe. And it's not about, this is the way the song goes. Mm-hmm. It's about, this is the way the song goes tonight.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
And like, we'll have 3 days, and one night it'll be 8 minutes, and the next night it'll be 14 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, and it keeps it fun, and it keeps us on the edge. Because you don't know if you're going to run into a train wreck, and we do run. we do run into train wrecks quite often, and like sometimes we'll find ourselves in a part that we're kind of vibing on, and we just kind of keep going, and then Perry doesn't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and like it's in the wrong place, but we're fucking him up, and but those moments of train wrecks that aren't that often. I would say 1 out of 10. It's a 1 out of 10 ratio. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it because it still keeps it kind of vibey, still keeps it kind of dangerous. It still keeps us on our toes. It still gives us something to come backstage and be excited about and go, what about that thing tonight where the thing happened and you played this and I did that? Yeah. And, that's really cool shit. You know what I mean? And so that's, I don't know if that's just who we are as players, or if that's what happens when you play 2 records from the 80s for 30 years.
Yeah. No, but that's cool. That kind of thing translates to the audience. And if they see that you guys are willing to take risks and having fun, I think they appreciate that. I think music fans that are going to see an actual band play, they want to see that. They don't want you to play the exact record from the 80s.
I never wanted to see that. I would never want to see that. I mean, there are moments when we're playing and we get lost in some new little kind of like, especially in 3 days, like we'll kind of side skirt and go to like a ambient noise section. And it is so like magical because it will never be repeated. It's that one night in that one room for that one specific crowd. And we're all in the moment. And at that time, I am not thinking about anything. Do you know what I mean? Like completely lost in the music. I mean, I've played these songs for so many years that I can be playing Stop and thinking about what movie I'm going to be watching on the bus later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, that's just, it's just second nature. But when we really get into the fog is really where I get excited. And, sometimes the fog turns into exhaust, and that's not that great, but it's what keeps the band interesting. It keeps us fresh as players. And, it's a different experience this time around. I don't know. It's just, sometimes, I'll be playing and I'll turn around and Eric Avery is on my side of the stage, crouched down, listening to what's coming out of my amp. You know what I mean? Like because we all have inning ears.
Yeah.
But he wants to hear it louder. So he comes over and he's playing off that. And it's just like, and it gives it so much more of a visceral feeling when we're paying attention to each other like that. But
he's such a dope bass player.
He's absolutely the backbone of the band musically. And I'm sure you've heard the expression, if you can play a great song on an acoustic guitar, then you know you have a great song. You know, have you ever heard that?
Yeah,
adage?
Of course. Yeah.
With us, if you can play it on the bass and sing along, then we know we have a great song.
Yeah.
It's just,
that is very obvious in that band.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that is just the case. And so, he's the primary songwriter. But you know, it's all, you know, we all very much contribute. Yeah. So what he comes in with ends up changing. And, you know, more often than not, he'll say, God, I didn't picture it going like this at all, but this is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or whatever, or like I'll play something and he'll change his notes that he came in with. He's like, oh, that's now you're onto something. Hold on, let me change this. So we just, there's like no ego whatsoever among the three of us. Like, if something is better for the song, it's better for the song, you know? And there was a song that we were working on where the outro had kind of a vamp, and I wanted Steven to just go crazy, like Keith Moon style, you know? And he had this beat that he was really in love with, that he wanted to stay with. He's like, yeah, but this beat is keeping a story and it's an unusual beat. And I'm like, I understand that. But just in the outro, try and, you know, go somewhere else with it. And he's like, okay. And he did. And it's fucking incredible. And not only did he go somewhere else with it that was completely insane, but the interesting beat that he had for the majority of the song stands out more now. Yeah. Because it goes somewhere, you're more conscious of what you heard before. Yeah. So it's really cool. You know, it's just it's a cool environment. Probably the coolest environment for us for writing in a long time. I think, you know, being the ages that we are and having done this so many times and attempted to do this so many times, it's just, you know, I think we're just kind of learning to, you know, the older you get, the more you let go of that's my idea and it should go like this. And, you know what I mean? Like, nobody really cares. Like, we just want to get the song done.
Well, that's cool.
And,
I love that. Well, besides playing music, I know that you do a lot of visual art as well. And I know you're involved in all kinds of other forms of self-expression. I'm curious, because you played music for so long, you are known, you're such a well-regarded musician and a guitar player, writer. I'm curious, when it comes to painting or when it comes to visual art, is there some form of self-expression that you're able to accomplish with painting that you're not able to get with music?
Yeah, it's not collaborative. It's not collaborative. It's just my voice.
Does it feel more intimate?
It feels more intimate. It feels, how can I put this? Intimate is not it feels more private. It's private. It's just me alone in my garage and just exploring. And it's funny you bring the painting up, because that is how I track guitars. It's like as if I was throwing every color in the rainbow, every color on the color wheel, at the, you know, at the machine or whatever. And then I could peel colors away. Well, the yellow doesn't really look good here, or you know. And with painting, I have to be very specific about the colors. So in some ways, the two art forms inform one another, because I've noticed since doing a lot of painting that I am more focused in the studio.
Yeah.
Like I already know that yellow is not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, they kind of help each other in a little bit of a way. You know, and it's obviously with the painting stuff, you know, there's a lot to it, because, you know, there's intimacy to it, there's privacy to it, there's expression and reaching deep down to it. There's a technical side of it that I find fascinating. And then frankly, when I go out on the street and paint, you know, there's an adrenaline side of it too, because, you know, that's you know, it's a form of expression that's not necessarily approved by law enforcement. So you kind of got to get it done. But then it's really, it's a satisfying feeling to drive by and know that whatever you're doing has impacted however many passersby there has been, and you have no idea, you know, because with records, you can track streams, you can track record sales, you can, you know, with street art, you've no idea who sees what or what anybody thinks. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like freeing in the sense that you get to do something experimental and creative, and truly not give a fuck what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
And that's, you know what I mean? Like, and I try to bring that into the music, that same attitude, even though I care a lot what people think, but you know, but at the same time, you know, this is what it is. And, you know, take it or leave it, you know, and then we've always been that way, you know, so some things have shifted since the original days with this lineup, but some things have stayed very much the same, you know, and we try to push ourselves and not, I don't know if you heard the song Imminent Redemption that just came out. It's our newest song. I think it sounds like Jane's Addiction. It's very bass heavy, very bass driven. But the odd thing about it is it has a specific chorus.
I was just going to say, song form. The traditional Jane's Addiction song form is not pop, rock, standard. Like, I was just going to say, the fact that there's a landing pad that feels like there's a release, it's different, but it's cool. It feels like it's exploration in a different space, but not in a pandering way.
It kind of is. And some of the records with Chaney, we had choruses and stuff. But if you think about Jane's Addiction 1.0, Stop doesn't have a chorus. Mountain doesn't have a chorus. Stealing doesn't really have a chorus. Jane Says kind of has a chorus, but it's still the same two chords. You know, Ain't No Right doesn't have a chorus. There's just two parts. Like, it's just like it never occurred to us to write a chorus. Like, there needs to be this memorable, ear-catching thing that makes people like it. And like, it's very strange. And like, I'm amazed that we got as far as we did without choruses. Because I don't think any one of us, you know, we all in our teenage years kind of just went from our parents' basement to a rehearsal studio. Yeah. You know, and like didn't, you know, and didn't, and the one thing that we all did have in common is that we didn't like formulaic music.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about that is that Eric was very punk rock driven, you know. Perry, did I say Eric? Yeah, Eric was very punk rock driven. Perry was he was just getting out of the goth scene. He had a band called Psycom, which is fucking amazing. If anybody wants to YouTube that, it's available. It's PSICOM. He fucking sounds so good on that.
Cool.
And then Perkins and I were like the young Rush fans.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So like, we didn't want boring, repetitive songs either. You know, we were more into like, I don't know if you want to call it fusion, exploration, whatever you want to call Rush. You know, we loved Van Halen. We loved, Black Sabbath. We loved all those bands. We loved Hendrix. We loved Zeppelin. But, there was something about Rush. If you take a song like, if you take an album like 2112, or you take a song like Via Srangiato, or you take side 2 of Moving Pictures, like, you're just like, these guys just keep changing parts and don't go back to the other part. You know what I mean? Like, and we love that. So even though all of our musical tastes were totally different, I think that one thing that we did all bond on was non-traditional structure. And 3 days, I mean, I think we repeat one thing twice, but there's no chorus to that song.
Yeah, but the other thing that does feel like it has in the music is hooks. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a chorus is just like, it's the most memorable thing of the song or whatever. But the music has hooks. There's all these things, like even like, with Jane Says, like you're saying, it's like, to me, it almost feels like the landing spot on the bass line and the groove that it ends up landing on can still just function like a chorus does, because it's a memorable groove and bass line. It's just, it has, it to me, it functions the same. And a lot of these tunes.
Exactly. And Jane Says, we're not really changing musically, but Perry is. So that makes the chorus. So, you know what I mean? Like, but none of that was really intentional, or like, let's not have a chorus in this, or we just wrote the songs as they came. And wouldn't it be cool if it went into this part? And wouldn't it be cool if it went into that part? Just like kids like playing, and like, we all liked non-traditional stuff. If you listen to Bauhaus, like those songs are not pop songs by any manner, and we were all into them. And if you listen to a lot of Pink Floyd songs, they just you listen to Animals, that thing just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's fucking amazing. And it's just like, you're not going to hear it on the radio, but who gives a fuck? And so the irony is that Perry and Eric ended up in a band that is influenced by bands they hate. I think it's really fun. I think it's really funny. You know what I mean? They are not Rush fans. Me and Perkins are Rush fans. And so
that's funny.
But you can hear the Rush in Jane's Addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can hear it. So it's just like, and you can hear the punk rock, you can hear the goth, you can hear the heavy metal, but it's not any one of those things. Yeah. And so, but it's interesting that Imminent Redemption, first time back, first release, has very much a chorus.
Yeah, you got a chorus, undeniable chorus. Yeah.
Yeah, which, I like the chorus, but I also know what's coming on the rest of the record.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of non-chorus stuff. So I'm happy with that, but, I just, I think remaining experimental and listen, and then the other component that's pretty important to us is listening to what the lyrics are. Can't stress that enough, because there are so many songs out there where the guy's pouring his heart out, and then this guy's doing his 8-finger tapping technique all over it, and it just doesn't. It's not emotionally moving,
Sure.
So we really kind of try and leave room for each other. You know, it's like,
I love that.
It's like if you listen to the Who, and you'll hear Roger Daltrey sing a line, and then as soon as the line's done, Keith throws a fucking crazy fill in there, and he gets out of the way before the next line. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's fucking crazy. I mean, the magic of that guy's playing, but I kind of think that we all try to do that individually,
Well, I think that's also one of the things that separates these kind of bands from those, like, being able to connect in a general public way. Like, you're able to connect with the general public, even though you have all this eclectic background coming together that on paper would be like, is the general public going to like this? It's like, there's enough awareness of other stuff that you're paying attention to that makes it, yes, the general public is going to be into it.
Well, and one of the things I do like about the band is that there's not too many times that Eric and I are in unison.
Sure.
Like, he's usually playing something melodic, and I'm playing something that's counter melodic. But then when we do go into unison on Mountain or Ain't No Right, it's a moment of impact in the show.
Yeah.
That's like a, it's like a Panzer division. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. So, I love the fact that we're willing to do both. Like, we don't try and outsmart ourselves and get too in our heads. Like, I love Radiohead, but just as an example, like, everything everybody's doing is interesting. You know? And which is great. And for them, it's amazing. But, within the context of a show, I want everything to be interesting too, but I also want something to just, I can just bite down on and go, this is fucking this. It's a freight train.
Yeah.
And so, I think that we're lucky that we get to do all of it.
That's great. Well, there's one thing that Chaney told me about that kind of surprised me. He told me that you've been super into. He's told me you've been in Steely Dan and the Jay Graydon Peg solo.
Which
is one of my favorite songs of all time, and in my top 5 favorite solos of all time.
It's one of my top 5 favorite solos, and Jay Graydon's one of my favorite guitar players. I do this thing. I don't really practice. Like, I don't sit at home and pick up the guitar and go over Jane's Addiction songs, or go over guitar solos, or go over scales, or go over things. What I do is I'll find the rabbit hole du jour, like last month, like 2 months ago, I think the rabbit hole du jour was Van Halen. So I went and got me one of these.
Oh yeah, you got the Frankenstrap.
I went and got me one of these, and I sat down and I learned as much Van Halen as I could fucking absorb.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the same thing, and then I'll tire that. And then I'll move over to Jay Graydon, and I'll start getting really deeply into Steely Dan, and and some of the chordal structures. And that's another thing that I like to do, is play with chordal structures that are more jazz oriented than just your two finger power chord. Although I love the two finger power chord and I use it all the time. I also use really, really odd chords for rock and roll of this genre. And a lot of that has come from paying attention to Steely Dan stuff. Like, cause that is a crash course in just the fucking weirdest shapes.
Oh,
and
progressions. It's fun, man.
It's just, so that's when I say I practice, that's what I do. I'll find something I don't know how to play that I've always wanted to play that I thought was too difficult to play, and I learn it. And then by doing that, I feel like I'm kind of broadening my own vocabulary on the instrument. But, you're still exercising your fingers, you're exercising your brain, you're taking in new information, and you're learning new tricks on the guitar. Because when I was growing up, we didn't have YouTube. I'm 57. So, growing up for me, it was like, put the needle on the record, listen to the part, pick up the needle, and try and find where it is on the guitar and play it, and then put the needle back down and try and learn the next part and pick the needle back up. There weren't a million dudes just showing you exactly, here's what it is. And like, that's, and that's how I learned to play, by ear.
Yeah.
By picking up and putting it down.
When I was starting, one of my first guitar tab books, that's how I did. I mean, obviously I was listening to CDs and stuff, but guitar tab books, this is still pre-YouTube, of course. I had the tab book for One Hot Minute. And that is where I learned a lot of different chord voicings. And I'd sit around, it's like, what is that? What is that thing that sound like Aeroplane, the little, the 2-note voicing up top in the verse, trying to figure out, like, what is that thing? It's like, I don't have to play a full chord when it says G minor. I can just do these 2 little notes and then move this one, So I definitely resonate with you saying you explore this kind of territory, because for me, that was one of the things that really pulled me into your playing from such a young age. Was it had the rock thing, it had all the energy of the 2-finger chord, but it had something else interesting with it that kind of perked up the ear in a way that was, wait, what's that? That's
thank you.
That's how you, so I've always loved your approach to chord voicings.
To this day, I still can't read a tab. I don't know. I don't understand them. I don't know.
Really?
I've never tried. No, I've never looked at one.
Wow.
Yeah, I just don't. I think tabs were something that just, I don't know if they came out after I just never knew what they were, or they came out after I was at a certain point, or I don't know, but I couldn't read a tab to save my life. I'd have a better chance learning Braille, but talking about the Chili Pepper record, that was a very difficult transition to make. Coming from Jane's Addiction, which was all over the place and just a humbucker sound, and I was playing PRS and Les Pauls and this and that, and then to get right into the Chili Peppers and have to hone in like a funk sound and trade in for a Strat in order to do their back catalog service you
Yeah.
know, and I love Strats, but they just, they weren't, they didn't fill enough space for me
Sure.
in the context of what I was doing. Cause, one of my first guitars was a Strat, and, because of Hendrix, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just, I loved it and still love it. And actually, I have a top secret Strat being worked on right now at the custom shop, which I'm very
Who's building
excited
it?
about.
Who's building it?
I can't
All right.
reveal I can't reveal anything about it.
I like that.
Like I really can't. It's like,
All right.
it's going to be magical, but
we'll keep it secret.
But I mean, they're doing that for me, and that it is magical. But so to trade over to the Strat for the Chili Peppers and not being used to having the same type of feedback that I'm used to, and the same kind of sustain I'm used to, and the same kind of thickness I'm used to, and because with the Paul Reed Smith, if I want to get a Strat sound, I can change my pickup setting, or I can roll down the volume, and then I can get that more of a cut kind of a sound, and get kind of a thinner tone, and it kind of works, and it's multifunctional. But but for us and for Jane's Addiction, it's funny. I did an interview the other day, and we were talking about effects. And when I came to audition for Jane's Addiction, Perry had an Ibanez DM1000 rack mount unit, which was it's a delay. It's a delay unit, a rack mount delay unit.
Yeah.
I had the same one. So I'm setting up. He looks at me and goes, "You use that?" And I said, "Yeah." And I go, "You use that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so, and both of us had the timings set against the beat. So if the beat was here, it was just doing its own thing. Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, 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 ooh. And it just created this fucking psychedelic, surreal thing. And I think the reason that I always used the delay and still do, I don't have that rack mount anymore, but the reason I still do is because without a rhythm guitar player, when I go to solo, a lot of sound goes away. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So I fucking just immerse the shit in delay for one thing. And I really like that because it fills up the sound, and there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of an autocorrect.
I was just going to say, there's a little forgiveness in there when you.
I make a joke with Steven that I call it the Navarro smear. When it's just like, when I get caught up into a place I don't know what to do, and I just make some sound, and it's like it's great. But so and the funny thing, the irony to that is that my love for the delay came about from the song Wrathchild by Iron Maiden, which nobody would ever guess. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you talked about playing the Strat in service of the catalog that went before in the Chili Peppers, but did you, because I knew your guitar playing with Jane's Addiction, and then when you came into the Peppers, I was interested in kind of hearing how you would approach when it comes to writing and coming up with your own thing. Did you have to consider Or were you considering in your head, oh, here's kind of what people might expect of the guitar role, so I'm going to maybe cater a little to that? Or did you just unabashedly be you?
If you read the reviews, that's certainly not the case. But I just was me, and I was just me on a Strat, and it was a really, that was a really tough time. That was, they lost John. Anthony was going through his own thing, which is no secret because he wrote a book about it. I was coming out of one band that things were a certain way into another environment that things were a totally different way. Like, I had never worked like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, one of the main differences is that with Jane's Addiction, Perry would come in with his poetry book and go, I got these lyrics. Listen to these. And then we would try and write something around them.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas Anthony would wait for music to be written and then come up with lyrics. Now, I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. I'm just saying, like, for me, I just didn't fucking know how to, I was so used to, like, trying to accompany a concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And instead of laying the foundation of a concept that I don't know what it's going to be, it was very tricky.
Sure.
So that was I think I had a lot to do with us kind of not fully jiving. I think we jived in a lot of ways, and I really enjoyed, especially playing with, that rhythm section for that long, really honed my skills. But it was different. It was, and I'll never forget, because in 1997, Flea joined Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
For a tour. And he pulled me aside one rehearsal, and he's like, dude, is this how it felt when you joined us? And I go, I think so, if you're not feeling comfortable. And he looks at me and he goes, how the fuck did you do it? I go, I don't know, man. It was just like, he got a taste of what I went through joining them, and like being in a band where half the audience is mad at you because you're not the guy who left and the other three hired.
Yeah.
We mad at me for? I didn't force my way in here. That guy left and these three fired me. But yet it's fuck you, Dave. You know what I mean? So it was just that's such a bizarre. Yeah. But that's, that's how fans are. And I whatever. They're passionate. I forgave it. I understood it. But like, it's just, especially hopping from one successful, moderately successful band into a giant machine like that was really tricky. And we had a lot of fun and we had a lot of great experiences, but a lot of it was really, really tough because, like I said, everybody was kind of going through their own emotional transitions at the time. Then Miracle, we got some stuff out as we did. And sometimes I hear some of it and I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Like I forgot about this. And
I love that record.
Yeah. I mean,
it was such a, I was younger. I didn't have the same sort of, I was more just open. I mean, I don't know what I was open. It was like, I remember.
I found that.
Yeah.
I found that people that weren't like into, old school, original, diehard, funkadelic style Peppers, Uplift Mofo, and, all those records, which Uplift might be my favorite record of theirs ever. But, the ones that were just kind of coming of age and got that record really love it. And the diehard fans prior to it didn't. And it was just, it was a tough time, but, I learned a lot. I experienced a lot. I grew a lot as a player, especially playing with those guys. And then being, back in, and I will say I'm a member of a cover band called Royal Machines, where we play with everyone under the sun. I mean, you name it. We played with, Ann Wilson. We played with Lou Reed. We played with, Steven Tyler. Like, I mean, you gotta adjust your playing and learning for each one of these singers. And this is a band that's been going on for 20 years. So learning how to kind of mold my playing to fit this particular, vocalist or song or genre or whatever I would just say to anybody who's playing that wants to expand their playing, like, just play with as many musicians as you can.
Yeah.
Because you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
And, you can sit at home and watch YouTube videos all day, but until you play with somebody who wasn't watching those YouTube videos, then, you're not going to expand. And so I'm lucky enough to have had that experience, and really grateful for it. And,
it makes you more versatile, makes you appreciate other styles as well. And I'm interested. I wouldn't have thought that. It's interesting hearing you say that Flea felt that way when he joined Jane's Addiction for that tour. But now that I think about it also, he plays with his fingers, and I associate Jane's Addiction is a pick bass band.
It's exactly right. That's exactly what he was struggling with.
So what did he do to compensate then?
He played with his fingers.
He still just played with his fingers and just made it work.
I believe so. I think there might have been a couple of songs that he used a pick on, but like Mountain Song or something.
Yeah, sure.
But for the most part, like, yeah, it's just like that. But that is the actual thing that he was talking about when he pulled me aside. It's funny that you picked up on that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about it at all until right now when you said that he was struggling with it. I'm like, why would he struggle? Then I'm like, oh, wait, I associate Jane's Addiction as a pick bass band. And that's not...
Absolutely.
Okay, so that makes a ton of sense now.
Yeah. And that, which is weird is that Eric and Flea have very similar backgrounds. Eric was in a lot of punk rock bands. Flea was in Fear, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? Like, it's like as punk rock as it gets. And, but Eric happens to be a Peter Hook fan, where I don't know that Flea is. Maybe he is. I don't know. But that's very pick driven.
Yeah. And
melodic and memorable and hypnotic.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I think that's what Eric really loves, is when things get hypnotizing. And that's where a lot of our Velvet Underground influences kind of come in, especially the Warhol with Nico album. You got Venus and Furs, you got All Tomorrow's Parties, you got these songs that just kind of like are these vibes that are like 7 minutes long, and they just don't really change much. And they're just, and they're just soundtracks, soundtrack material.
I love that. Kind of close things out. What are you most excited about what you're doing right now with both in your music and touring, Jane's Addiction? I'm stoked for this lineup. I can't wait to see it live. But what are you stoked about?
I'm stoked about the new material that we've been coming up with, and frankly, to be on tour with Love and Rockets. I mean, we were on tour with Love and Rockets in, I think, 1989, and we're going back out with them, in the fall. And as I mentioned here already in the podcast, Daniel Ash is one of my favorite guitar players. I mean, without a doubt, so, I can't go on tour with Hendrix. I can't go. It's very unlikely that I'll go on tour with David Gilmour. I can't go on tour with Van Halen. But I can go on tour with Daniel Ash, and that's, to me, it's just like I couldn't ask for, a better crash course in learning cool shit, because he is really an innovative guitar player and has written some of the most iconic sounding material of all time, whether people know it or not. So that's exciting, and so I think that'll be a cool tour. And we've known those guys since the 80s, so it's going to be like, brotherhoods, mutual admiration, and a highly juxtaposed set, because they don't get that aggressive. And we get aggressive, but we also calm down quite a bit, And I think in the early days, we were compared to Led Zeppelin quite a bit. And I think that's why. Because of the different temperatures that we were able to tap into. Which is, hey, I'd much rather be compared to Led Zeppelin than, a million other things. I don't want to.
You don't have to call anybody out right now. We don't want to get you in trouble.
I had one in mind too, and I was like,
I know. I was like, oh, wait.
I can't say it. I can't say it. It's just been great talking to you. I really appreciate it, Cory.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm excited to come see you out on the road sometime.
Absolutely.
We'll get out to a show.
What, dude? Anytime, just hit me up personally, and I'll make sure it happens.
Awesome. Thank you, man. We'll see you soon.
Take it easy, man.
There you have it. Navarro, dude. Navarro. Thanks so much for hanging with us on the Wong Notes podcast. I really appreciate you being here. It is really fun for me to do this podcast because a lot of these guitar players and musicians are people that I've just looked up to for years. A lot of them are my friends and peers, and a lot of them are people that honestly I'm kind of unfamiliar with, but I've heard a lot about, and I'm curious. So I ask them questions about their artistry and what they do. If you haven't listened to us before, I've got a lot of episodes in the archives. Just go scroll through. There's a bunch of people from all different genres and instruments that I've interviewed, and I have a really good time doing it. So thanks for hanging. We'll see you next time. Peace.